Welcome, everybody. Hey, and welcome to my amazing guest, Pandora Lisa Hayes. How are you going, Pandora?
I'm doing fabulously. Thank you so much for having me on.
Now, tonight we have the absolute privilege of having, as we said in the intro there, the glorious goddess of yoga queen, who is also a business owner, who has Pandora, you have Queen West Studios over in Seaton, sort of in the western suburbs. So let's just rock straight into it, okay? Could you tell me, how the hell did you end up coming to own a business called Queen West Studios?
Well, it was during COVID and I graduated my yoga teaching degree, and I was running and hosting yoga from home. And it was a crazy idea. After I got a circle, me and my friend Undercover Events, Jade, were just chatting like, how cool would it be if we just had our own space and could run events and do the circles from there? And then the universe answered, and I had someone reach out going, I've got this really cool space. Do you want it? And we just said yes. And then Queen West Studio was born, as it's not just a yoga studio. It's just a studio for anyone to collaborate. It's a collaboration space where all different modalities can come in and just get involved.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So tell me, how did you get into your spiritual journey? Sort of, where have you come from? What's your background?
So spiritual journey, I think I was always born as a little bit of a spiritual child, and you don't really notice those awakenings or those parts of yourself, or you kind of run away from them or distract yourself from them. And it really came up for me in, I'd say 2020. My dad had a stroke and I was working in my old career, doing drugs every day, drinking every day, to distract myself from the real me. And yoga practice was my secret little thing that I had, that I wasn't sure if people would accept me in that field. And it all just came crashing down, and I really focused on yoga, and it's what really, really saved me, like the deep, like philosophy, esoterical knowledge, the woo-woo ha-ha connections. And yeah, it just flowed and moved so quick and vastly that I dove deep into a 2.5-year yoga degree and just laser point focused my energy, and graduated in 3 months. I had a retreat to celebrate at the end of that time, but the retreat was for me to go on and celebrate as a guest. And she just contacted me and said, hey, the facilitator isn't going to be going ahead, so maybe the retreat is going to have to cancel. And I just went, I'll do it. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'll teach the yoga retreat. So it was all just coincided perfectly, and just kept going from there. And I knew I couldn't just hide in my home like that time of the world wanted us to. And the opportunities just arose, and I just kept riding that wave.
Oh my goodness, I love this. This is so juicy and gritty, and I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that part with us, because everybody comes from different spaces, and that's what this show is really about, is about really showing that we're not all going to be people who have done the spiritual woo-woo stuff for years and years and years. Some of us are going to be like just slamming straight into it, and have only been actively really doing it for maybe a couple of years or 3 years or maybe 6 months or whatever. And that's what this platform's all about, to show all those different stages and what is possible within those different stages. So thank you so much for showing us what is possible when you just fucking let it all go in your belly and just ride with your belly, you know, that deep internal instinct and sparkle thing that makes you go, yes, I'm choosing that.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. I just really quietened the space around me and followed that fuck yes energy, and just took it as it come, and didn't really say no to any opportunities. I messed up and made some wrong decisions and mistakes on the way, but it brought me to where I am now, exactly where I'm meant to be.
Yeah, I know. Like, I do a craft class, and I don't run it, I attend it. And we talk about mistakes, and mistakes are not mistakes. They're just moments to embellish.
Oh, I love it the way that Bob Ross puts it, happy accidents.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So and I remember when I was at a job interview one time and I said, oh, there was one mistake I made, and I went on to explain what that was about. And they turned around to me and said, there are no mistakes. It's only lessons. What did you learn from that? And I was like,
I definitely concur.
And that helped me reframe a lot of things in my world, actually. Who knew that would happen from a job interview? But there you go. So being that you went through a very intense degree of learning over that 3 months, where do you sit with your version of what consciousness means to you?
So I did read this question, and like where it posed what consciousness means to me. I think that everything has a consciousness, and to have consciousness is like when people say awoke or like the awakening. It is just to be aware of yourself, the energy, the other beings, and how we all actually like integrate and come together in this beautiful world that we're gifted. And it's kind of like what our reality is might be different to someone else's reality, but it's that conscious understanding that multiple realities can exist at the same time.
I love that. Every single person that has come onto this show have all said something slightly different and an answer to that question. And I absolutely love that, because it shows the variety of comprehension of where they're at with their journey versus, each other and all of that sort of thing. None of it's wrong. And here's the thing, none of it's right either. It just is. I love it. That's why I asked that question. So I'm going to chuck you in a different question in here. So if you could say anything to say your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now, not to necessarily change the direction, because if you change the direction of when you said something to them then, what would you say to them then that would maybe ease the journey a little bit to where you are now?
Good question. I know what you mean. You don't want a butterfly effect that I would change where I am in my life now. But I would probably say like you are always okay. Like it was always going to work out. Like stop stressing about the little things. It's always going to be okay. Even though you seem like you're at rock bottom, you maybe needed to be at rock bottom for the highs to feel high, because in that moment that low felt really low, and you were meant to be here to have this lesson for your next level of growth. Like it's those times you feel like it's the darkness and you're buried, but maybe you've been planted.
I love that. Yes. Oh, you just gave me goosebumps. Thank you. And along with that, for somebody who's maybe just starting out in business, whether it be a studio such as yourself or any other kind of business, really, because they're all sort of beginning the same way, what would be your top tips for somebody just starting in business, whether it be like for somebody who's a heart-centered business? I'm going to put it that way.
What I would say is you definitely got to take the good with the bad. I've literally just spent the last 2 hours doing all my tax spreadsheets, and it is so much more than you think it is. You've got to take I get to have my own business and work my own hours and do my own thing and project my own reality. But then you've also got to take the other side of the pole and be like in the matrix, doing the accounting, doing like the tax keeping, and it isn't separate. So you cannot avoid it. And don't silver line stuff to think that you can't. That's just something that comes with it all. And it's your business. It's not just your 9 to 5 where you go to your job, you can kind of slack off, be on your phone, whatever, put a half-assed attempt into it. You have to give it everything. You have to give it every part of your divine spirit being towards it to grow, because if you don't laser focus, it's what you put in is what you get out. It's the energy exchange. So if you kind of go, oh, wishy-washy energy out into the universe, mirror. So you've just got to give it everything, 110%. Sometimes it's going to be 7 days a week. But also on that other end of the spectrum, take those times out. You need to lay in bed all day or just chill out and slow down and stop. Do it, because you'll just burn out.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. There is, I can't remember who said it. There's been many people who have said it, where they go, when you do what you love, they say you'll never work another day in your life, right? But they also, the wise ones, say it's not that you'll never work another day in your life. It's that the effort that you put in won't feel like work because you're doing what you love. So it's not that hard grind slogging every single day. It's like the when we're doing what we love, it's ease the majority of the time. And so we end up technically putting in a lot more hours into what we love, yet at the same token, we may not necessarily be getting paid for all of those hours like we would in a 9-to-5 job, which does feel like work because you're not necessarily doing what you love. That's the hard part about having your own business. And then you get to do cool stuff like dealing with the ATO.
Oh, don't even get me started. Like, how random. It's like, are you serious, ATO, right now before the podcast?
Oh, I love it. So with that retreat that you did, that very first one, what was your most tasty moment out of doing that retreat?
For me, my most tasty moment from that very first retreat. Okay, so this retreat was the first time I had ever taught. I had mad imposter syndrome. I had like my books ready and my stuff ready and my things ready, and I was freaking out. And I just realized, you already know everything. The Akashic records are up here. You've been doing this for 21 years. You know what you were doing. Be yourself. You don't need to be any other version, because you get a job and you think, all right, yoga teacher, and you've got to be like, namaste, I eat kale, I'm all soft and gentle. And I had a yoga client actually say, you know what, the only way I can explain you is that you're like yoga with a side of fuck. And that's exactly who I am. You just have to really own who you are. And it was that moment that I started teaching, and then just watching everyone's faces light up, being like, wow, I thought yoga was boring. I thought yoga was just meditating. I thought it was just like fully woo-woo ha-ha. And I just found that it was being the bridge between okay, this is a little bit weird and esoterical and I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it, but then dropping an F-bomb and being my unique signature of energy to make people be like, hang on, you're a real person. But just watching that connection really flourish and not feeling like the teacher, but also being the student as I was teaching, in that beautiful never-ending cycle.
Absolutely. And I love that your students were able to watch that shift within you. That would have been so inspiring for them too. To be invited to that space where they are seeing that they too can be all of them. They don't have to conform to somebody else's box, if you like.
Oh, 100%, not conforming to Pandora's box. And I think that big inspiration as well, where I just graduated, and people could see that like I wasn't this, like put me on a pedestal, and I was this like fancy, like almost like a celebrity type person or someone that was like looked up to. I was like, I literally just graduated last week. I'm on the same level as you, and I can tell my story. Like a year ago, my life was completely different. Like a year ago, I was worse off than you. Like, you are so much further on this journey than I am, and look at where I'm now. And it doesn't have to be 5 years, 10 years, and like projecting it so far out that one day maybe, if you really just balls the fuck up and put it all in, what is your focus? What is your energy? What is it that you want? You can make anything happen. We forgot how powerful beyond measure we really truly are.
Yes. And that was something that, you know, my partner Matt, he was like, this chick Pandora, she's just like far out. She's so fucking inspiring. And she's like, she's told me, just get that fucking that's the, when he goes, when I started talking about my drum stuff, and she looked at me with her eyes wide open and goes, that's what I want to see from you. That's how you've got to talk about your stuff. And he came home and he was absolutely buzzing about you. And I was just like, this lady, I've got to talk to her.
That's kind of what I feel like my Dharma is. It's like this electric energy of, I'm a generator, so I've got so much energy built up, and I'm just here to inspire and drive and support. And when I see someone, like, I don't know what it is sometimes within them, and I just saw Matt's face like just lighting up talking about drumming, I'm like, bro, that is what you need to be doing. That is where you're coming alive. Like, what are you doing? You need to do something about this. It's sitting in your lap. And I know you lost a little bit of your own spark because of what's happened over the last 2 years. Here's some spark and go do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, he's so lucky because he's got beautiful beings such as yourself inspiring him every time that he interacts with you. And there are so many other people in his world now that, you know, are all doing the same thing from different directions and different perspectives. And it's just so beautiful that, you know, to have this community here. And that's what lights me up. That's what gets me up out of bed in the morning. It's just like, yes, we're fucking doing it, people. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Yeah, huge.
But it's a shift in the collective consciousness, like right about now. Like, they probably said this for many years, but right now I can just feel this energy of, unfortunately, the patriarchal systems are breaking down, and it is a time for the feminine to rise. And not like females are better than males, males are better than females, not at all. It's about that pendulum swing of the equality coming back. So, you know, it's gone this way where women were lower, women were less, women got paid less, and now it's the pendulum swing the other way where women are burning burqas, women are like pulling their voice back and their power back and their sexuality. And it's going to keep going until eventually the pendulum's going to come to an equanimity. And we are in that spot right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I completely agree. And the thing that pops up, particularly on the Tuesday podcast of the two guys and a girl, is to talk about how we are all masculine and feminine within. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that, because when you spoke to me about that the other day, I was like, that's something I would really like for you to express on the podcast as well, coming from the feminine person, the female person, talking about those two different energies. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, this is just my take. Everyone can take what serves them and leave what doesn't. But within every single human being, like, I'm projected energetically as masculine and feminine, but my physical body, I'm feminine. So we have those qualities, and it depends, like, whether you're a balanced masculine, balanced feminine. But you have those qualities within you where I can still be very assertive or set boundaries or know what I want, but I can still also be soft and gentle and feminine. And even if you're looking at the sides of your body, your backside of your body being your Paschima is your west side, your strength, your masculine. You notice if you go to fall, you'll turn your back. It's like the outside layers of your body is your shell and protection. And even the inside layer of your body is where our breasts and our womb is our feminine. It's our pravata, our east side, our gentle, soft sweetness. So you tend to like curl up to protect that inner edge. And that's just on the outside. So on the inside, we have both qualities. And I think that's really what's like happening right now. It's the massive healing of this mother wound, not just Earth and Gaia in her own sense, but women stepping into their feminine balanced power of being assertive but still sweet, and then men coming into their balanced masculine power where they're still that, you know, that strong foundation, but they can feel their emotions.
Oh my God, yes. And I have to say, I'm so grateful to have around me men who are in that space, you know, and it's like I've got several different male friends now who are very balanced with their feminine as well as their masculine. And they can still be incredibly strong male masculine men, but at the same time, they know how to express themselves. And it's just so beautiful to be around and inspiring for me because it allows me to relax out of my masculine, because I don't have to be that all the time. I can actually allow my feminine to come up and just be held. And it's like, oh, thank you. Thank you for doing the work that you've done.
And it's that balanced safety. You can't just have a like strong ooga booga man protecting all the time. They have to let down their guard of vulnerability so you can mirror their vulnerability. And then that's exactly the same with like my sacred partnership. I'm able to let down the guard and the masks of having my shit together all the time and being that Amazonian powerful woman that I can, you know, I can fall into his arms if I need be, where for a long time I wasn't in balance and I had shit all to myself. I could do it. I'm just independent. I've got this. But no, sometimes I don't got this. And I love to hear that, you know, you've got that same community and you're cultivating these same kinds of men around you. I'm also activating and having these same kinds of men around me because we are being conscious and being aware of what's really going on and taking those lessons towards healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so grateful that we are alive now, you know, and even though there has been so many moments over the last probably for me 3 years, I would say, where I've just gone, I don't know if I can do this anymore, people. I really don't know if I can. I think it might be time for me to head off this planet. And my team sits there and goes, nuh-uh, no way. You can get that thought out of your head. Thank you very much, Missy. You still got a lot of work to do. It's like, oh, damn it.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. That's you being very vulnerable to like only me, but your people watching.
Thank you. It's part of the realness of spirituality as well. You know, it's not an easy journey at times.
People think the spirituality game is all like love and light and namaste. You think you wake up in a field of daisies and like the sun's shining, but you actually wake up on a battlefield with both your legs cut off and shit is real.
Yeah. Because it's not just about those rainbows and daisies. It really truly is. And in so many ways, it's about seeing everything in all of the rawness and seeing everything. And I mean everything. And often we are feeling it all as well through our bodies. And it is hard work at times until we get the tools, until we learn some stuff on how to actually manage and cope and move through all of those energy shifts and all of those awarenesses and all that stuff. But until you get to that point, it's brutal. And there is a lot of people who suddenly, you know, have that matrix moment where they're waking up out of the pod and they're being attached and suddenly are seeing all of the structures around them and go, what the fuck? Okay, I'm out of here. I'm done.
My biggest realization of like putting it so simply is deal with your fucking childhood trauma and stop projecting that onto people. Stop holding it down and bottling it in. That is how you create disease, and you projecting that onto everyone else around you is just magnifying that effect. And all the work that I've done and all the research that I've done and all the deep integrating my shadow into me all comes down to childhood trauma, all of it.
Yeah, so much of that right now. And I'm seeing also in my practice, there's a lot of past life trauma being healed and integrated right now, which is beautiful. It's beautiful to be a part of that process as well, you know, and past life can also include this life, of course, and doing exactly what you said.
Of course. And even so, like, to go a little bit deeper into that, it's also in utero that people don't even think that, like, there's that phase of past life and then being born. There's that time in between where you're in utero for 9 months and you are still like well aware of your surroundings and hearing things and what food your mother is intaking while you're there. That is a huge part people forget about as well.
Oh, for sure. Like, I had a really big awareness moment around that. A friend of mine was doing some theta healing with me, and we went back to the womb space, and that was when I realized that confirmed actually what I always knew instinctively. Even from a little kid, I knew this, and I questioned my mother many times on it, and she always denied it because it made her look like a bad mum, right? But when she found out she was pregnant with me, she was angry. She was pissed off. She was disappointed. She was, you know, in massive amounts of grief because I was not on her plan. You know, she was 18 years old and she was in the middle of her first year at uni, and she had these grand plans for becoming an English teacher. And, you know, I fucked it up. You know, in her eyes, becoming pregnant was the ruination of her life as she was had planned it out. And I don't take any of that on these days. But basically, energetically, I was wrapped up in anger, rage, fury, hate, blame, shame, regret, and guilt, so that by the time I was born, that was the only thing she could see. She couldn't see this beautiful little being that was being handed to her by the beautiful midwife saying, isn't she gorgeous? Mum couldn't see any of that. All she saw was all these layers that she'd placed all in and around me while I was in vitro. So I had to do some healing with that.
Just layers of her own ego.
Yeah. And like these days, that's all gone now. Like I don't have any of that. That's why I'm quite happy to talk about it. But it's that realization, as you said, that in vitro work is so important as well.
So and then you're saying with the past lives and going into generational trauma, that we don't think it's going to be affected by generations, but even, for example, like with how our DNA is like based upon maybe me coming from a different background of my mother coming from the Philippines and the years down the track, what food that they ate and what temperatures they were raised in and what background they were raised in and how they found it hard and struggling, being poor, it carried down all through the generations to even me, like you were saying, like in vitro being, she came to another country and she was scared. She was alone. She was abandoned. She had no family. So like, why did I have all these feelings? And same, like this is something I own and I don't deal with it now. That why did I have those feelings of abandonment when I was never really abandoned. So it's all comes down through all those.
Oh dear.
Feeling abandoned or abandoning her own family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's so fascinating when we can actually sit back and have a look at where do these traumas come from, and sort of, doing that little bit of investigating. I find that quite thrilling in some ways. I love a good puzzle.
So do I.
And even to take it back to yoga, and I remember there was a friend of mine. No, it wasn't a friend. It was actually a lady who came to me for a class. I didn't really do a lot of yoga or anything, but I said to her, you might find that you quite enjoy when you're having this energetic process run, that you'd like to have your legs like what would be known as butterfly position, but you can't do that because it puts your feet together, which short circuits the process. But anyway, you can cross your ankles and that'll be fine. She goes, that doesn't surprise me, because there's a lot of emotions that are stored within the pelvis. This is something we learn in yoga. And I'm like, oh, yeah, true. So I'm curious, when you're doing your yoga classes and your retreats and things like that, like, do you have a lot of those moments with your participants where they are just sort of releasing a lot of those emotions, and that sort of surprises them that it comes out while doing a movement?
A little bit, like, so a lot of people are very closed to the idea of it, and they just think, oh, yoga's like Lorna Jane clothes and moving in time to the music to cool poses, like, and I'm going to do like a headstand. So people kind of like bypass all of that stuff. So I try to inform them that, hey, this certain, because I didn't have this information, certain poses, you do have a lot of energy that, especially for women, is stored in your womb and your hips. Men also store it in their hips. And this pose might have something come up. So they're like, ooh, aware, thinking, what is this feeling? Because I found if you don't inform them, they'll get into a pose and kind of go, something doesn't feel right. Oh, I'm too tight. My muscles don't bend that way. And they'll give you an excuse or a reason to limit themselves. But once they're aware to what's going on, they can move deeper into it. And a lot of yoga teachers don't practice hands-on adjustments anymore due to, I don't know, sexual harassment claims, let's say. But in no way am I sexually harassing anyone. I can just see where it's stored, and I can see where there's a part of their body that's tensed up. I guess like how a masseuse can see the muscles tensing in certain ways, and I'll just move them into it. And they're like, oh, yeah, that hurts. I can't move into it. And I'm like, does it hurt here? Or does it hurt here? Or does it actually hurt there? And you're just bringing that awareness to them, that they can be conscious of what's actually going on. Am I feeling pain? Am I limiting myself? Am I actually feeling something come up energetically? Is this pose reminding me of something in my past or bringing up a trauma? And I've found so many people, once they're aware, I had that consciousness around that, they open up and they let go, and your hands on adjust, and then you hold them and you give them that, it's almost like a pressure that they move back into, and they know that they're held and they're safe, which is it's not really trauma informed, but just trauma aware.
I love that. I know at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I was certainly, when a resistance would pop up and you kind of go, oh God, that feels yuck. No, I don't want to go there. And I also had some beautiful mentors at that time going, what is that? Can we ask a few more questions about that? And so these days, and then it was about halfway along, probably a couple of years into my journey, and I would be less likely to turn my back completely on it and just go, oh, fine, fuck you, what is that? I'd get angry about it instead, or it's like, yeah, fine, and I'd sort of reluctantly look at something, but there'd often be some, like swear words at the person that I was with. You fucking found me, you bitch. These days, it's like, there's a resistance there. Okay, cool. What's that? And it's just kind of like,
just
I'm
being
a lot
curious.
more useful. Yeah, way more curious these days, way less resistance. And because I reframed it in my head from being pain or a painful moment to being intensity. It's just energetic intensity. That's it. It's like when we do energetic work, whether it be yoga or body processes or whatever, stuff that's coming up to be cleared will feel intense, which we have misidentified and misapplied it as pain. It's not pain. It's an intensity, and that's all. And then you get that opportunity, that chance to reach into it and release it. And the only person that can release it is you. Nobody else can release that.
True that.
And this is why...
Well, you can have a guru, which... Sorry. You can have a guru, which doesn't literally mean someone on a podium above you, just means like a light holder. So someone to go, hey, from the outside perspective, I noticed maybe this, and shine a light over here and shine a light over there, and you do the work yourself.
Yeah. Exactly. What a beautiful reframe of the word guru. I just crack up when I see it. Alrighty, so I'm curious, with your studio and your business and your yoga, what is your number one aim?
What is my, sorry?
What is the aim of your business? Your teaching?
The aim. So it's really not the how, it's not the what, it's not the who, it's the why. So the aim is why I do this. It is to inspire people to see the light that is inside themselves, that we are all of equal matter and energy, and anyone can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And this is just to inspire and have a space for people to be able to level up, whether you're at the beginning or whether you are coming back into it, or whether you're looking to go all out and go big. And it's just to have that support network. And I just feel like this was my Dharma, and it was what I was meant to do. I was meant to be that light holder to show and mirror people to their true highest potential. And if I just keep doing that one day at a time, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I love that. And I also loved what you said the other day when we got to catch up was, you chose to have a completely different community and you didn't know where it was. So you created your own.
And then it's like I was like outcast into the desert. I was outcast into the desert and I had no one. And I could either like mourn all the people that were left behind, or like be attached to the memories that were, or I could just be like, let me find my people.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. So we're just coming up to our sort of juiciest question of all. And before I ask that really super juicy question, I'm actually going to ask you, what have you got coming up? What things have you got coming up? What events and stuff have you got coming up that people can come and find you?
Okay, so first of all, you can find me in Queen West Studio. I've just come off the back of 7 days in the Daintree Rainforest, where I host retreats with Explore Your Inner Nature and Discover a New Path. And I do facilitate more retreats with her. So we've got one coming up in February in the York Peninsula, and we have one coming up in Bali in March, and we've got many more coming up for 2023. I also can come facilitate at your retreat. So if you are lacking a yoga person in your community, I like to join communities. I also do that. I have the Modern Day Goddess Circle, which I run monthly on a full moon in the studio. That's more about doing the shadow work, shedding your skin. We do bonding. It's a different topic every month. We're up to number 17, which is November the 10th. And we'll be doing ecstatic dance and a sound healing with beautiful Jem Lee and Gabrielle Divine. And then we do the new moon collaboration. So on a new moon, it's not about shedding the skin and doing all the hard work and like delve. It's about creating and collaborating. We've got a jewelry workshop with, she's at the tip of my tongue, Pretty Mood Swings, PMS jewelry designer. She's freaking amazing. And that's just like food, connecting, wine. If you don't drink wine, kombucha. And we just do some just real connecting. I've got so much stuff on. And if that's all too much for you and you're like, well, that's too much, I do have my yoga book that I wrote last year. So if you want to do that in your own pace, in your own time, you can grab a copy of that on my website. Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty much full of one-on-one clients, and I've got so much other beautiful things going on. In between that, I'll be sleeping and napping and hopefully just meditating under a rock somewhere to get some peace.
And of course, you do your yoga classes as well.
Yeah, so I just do my weekly classes. If you just head on to yogiqueen.club, you can just see when they're available. I run them 4 times a week. I run a real small class, so no more than 8 people. I'm not about this like 40 people in a class. Let's get all the heads in there, everyone tagging in, all that cool bullshit. I can really work one-on-one, hands-on adjustments with a small class, and it creates a stronger, more powerful community that way.
I love that. And I certainly know that my partner, Matt, loves coming to the classes too, even though he has those lovely moments of going, oh, I don't know if I want to go today. But then he by the time he comes home, he's just buzzing all over again. And, he's gone through that extra layer of shedding. I think every time he comes, he's like, he just drops another little bit of a layer of something at the door. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear.
I love that he goes and does yoga with you.
I love him coming to yoga. He brings his own unique energy, and just watching him peel those layers back. I remember when he first came, he's like, I can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm like, why are you canting all over yourself?
Oh, dear. Oh, that's hilarious. So thank you so much for having all those things. And of course, people can connect with you to like hire your space as well. Is that correct?
For sure. Yep. So we have an Instagram, queen.west.studio, because it is the collaborative space. I don't host a lot of yoga. I'm only doing it 4 times a week. So we can have other people who might want to do sound healing, breath work, cacao ceremonies, ecstatic dance, be a dancer. We've got so many different modalities. Wednesdays now, we've just picked up an Akasma quantum healer. So it's whatever you want to bring. It doesn't have to be along a modality of healing, because on the weekends, we hire it out with Undercover Events, my business partner. We do birthdays, hens days, sip and paints. We do anything. I'm not going to even limit it with what the words I'm saying. Anything is possible. You want a space to do it, Queen West Studio is where to go.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space, I have to say. So, into our last, most juicy question of all. If you could sit next to any person on a park bench for the afternoon, who would it be and why?
See, I've racked my brains over and I was like, all right, I've got 50, I've got 20 people, I've gone down to 3 people, and anyone of all time. Let me sit with that as anyone of all time. It would have to be like one of the godfathers of yoga, like BKS Iyengar. I would loved to, because he went through such like a hard time. He had this like little pot belly body and couldn't breathe very well, didn't have the body shape for someone who would do yoga, to becoming one of the forefathers of yoga, bringing it to the Western world, and the legacy that he had left, and the whole entire form and of yoga that he had gifted us from the East. So just to see like what went through his head, his way of teaching, like just everything about him, any kind of guru pretty much, it's just, you've got Rumi, Ramdas, Maharaji, there's so many people, just someone that you could just sit there and be like, tell me more, like just, I'm a little sponge that wants to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely love it. And I love hearing people's why, because it's like that's just sort of it tells me a lot about their heart space. It tells me a lot about what's important to them. It tells me a lot around, what really makes them sparkle. And if you can identify that sparkle in someone else, you've also got the same, because you can't recognize what you don't know. Right? So that's why I asked that question, so that the people who are watching or listening to this in the future can also go, oh, yeah, that's what I would choose too. Wow, cool. There's somebody else out there choosing for the same reasons. Again, it's that sparkling thing going, and it's like it explodes even more, like little wee fireworks going off everywhere. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Pandora, for being with us today. I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for you and everything that you do and everything you choose, and for being the guiding light out there for so many other people. And please continue on your incredible journey, your beautiful journey. Get out there and just keep being you, because the only person who can be you is you.
Right? So thank you so
much,
much, Lorraine, for inviting me.
Oh,
thank you.
My absolute pleasure. And of course, my beautiful audience, thank you for watching. I adore you. And of course, get out there, do something tasty for yourself over the next week or so. And next week I have Kate from Kate's Organite Pyramids on to have a little chat with us. So I'm looking forward to that. She's got a really interesting backstory that we can go into. And I'll leave that as a surprise, because she's amazing. She's a mama who's been through a lot of stuff in her life, and creating those pyramids was like her godsend, but like yours with the yoga. And yeah, I have to say, it's so cool to see what is inspiring these gorgeous people to create these heart-centered businesses. So, of course, I'll be back on Friday for Find You Fridays, the intuitive reading show. But until then, be bold, be brave, be you, my beautiful friends. Until next time, bye-bye.